Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo, infamously known as the Butcher of Rostov, the Rostov Ripper, or the Red Ripper, stands as one of the most prolific and barbaric serial killers in modern history. Born in the shadow of Soviet oppression and famine, Chikatilo's life unfolded against the backdrop of a crumbling empire, where personal demons festered in secrecy. Between 1978 and 1990, he confessed to the murders of 56 people, mostly young women. Girls and boys, though authorities verified. 53, his crimes were marked by extreme sadism. Victims were lured, sexually assaulted, stabbed repeatedly, mutilated, and sometimes cannibalized. Chikatilo's reign of terror exposed the inefficiencies of the Soviet justice system, which initially denied the existence of serial killers, allowing him to evade capture for over a decade. This biography traces Chikatilo's life from his traumatic childhood in rural Ukraine to his execution in 1994, drawing on psychological insights, investigative details, and the societal context that enabled his atrocities. At its core, his story is one of profound human failure, born from hunger, humiliation, and unchecked rage, culminating in a legacy that continues to haunt criminology and popular culture. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo entered the world on October 16, 1936, in the small village of Yablushne, also spelled Yabloknoye, located in the Sumy Oblast of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. His birth coincided with one of the darkest chapters in Soviet history, the Holodomor, the man-made famine engineered by Joseph Stalin's forced collectivization policies. The Ukrainian countryside, once fertile, had become a graveyard of starvation. Chikatilo's parents, Roman Chikatilo and Anna Makarovna, were lowly collective farm laborers, toiling in a one-room hut without wages. They were permitted only a tiny plot of land for personal cultivation, which barely sustained them. Food was a luxury. Chikatilo later claimed he did not taste bread until he was 12 years old, surviving instead on grass, leaves, and whatever scraps could be scavenged. The family's desperation was compounded by a chilling family legend. Chikatilo's mother, Anna, recounted to her son the story of his older brother, Stepan, who had supposedly been kidnapped and cannibalized by starving neighbors during the famine's peak in the early 1930s. This tale, though unverified and possibly a product of wartime trauma or folklore, left an indelible mark on the young boy. It instilled in him a morbid fascination with cannibalism, a motif that would later manifest in his crimes, where he occasionally consumed parts of his victims' bodies. Some psychologists speculate this narrative fueled his later acts of mutilation and consumption, symbolizing a twisted reclamation of power over the vulnerability he felt as a child. World War II cast an even longer shadow over Chikatilo's formative years. In 1941, Nazi forces occupied Yablushne, bringing bombings, fires, and atrocities that the boy witnessed firsthand. His father, Roman, was conscripted into the Red Army in 1943, but was soon captured. After being wounded in battle, Roman spent the remainder of the war as a German prisoner, enduring torture and starvation. Upon his return in 1946, he was vilified by villagers as a collaborator accused of deserting to the enemy, leading to public beatings and social ostracism. This stigma extended to young Andrei, who absorbed the family's shame. At home, life was no refuge. Chikatilo shared a bed with his mother, who was prone to violent outbursts. He suffered from chronic bedwetting in eresis until age 12, for which Anna beat him mercilessly, sometimes stripping him naked and parading him before neighbors as punishment. In 1943, Anna gave birth to a daughter, Tatiana. Under mysterious circumstances, Roman was still imprisoned, leading to rumors that the child was conceived through wartime rape. The family's hut, a single cramped room, offered no privacy, amplifying Andrei's sense of exposure and humiliation. Despite these hardships, Chikatilo showed early intellectual promise. He began school in September 1944, amid the post-war famine that claimed millions more lives. Physically frail and prone to fainting from malnutrition, he was an easy target for bullies, who mocked his small stature, timidity, and stutter. Yet academically, he excelled. Teachers praised his diligence, and by his early teens, he had transformed into a model Soviet youth, an ardent communist, editor of the school newspaper at age 14, and chairman of the local Communist Party Youth Committee by 16. He graduated in 1954 with top marks. Dreaming of higher education, puberty brought new torments. Around age 12, Chikatilo discovered he was impotent, a condition possibly linked to hydrocephalus, water on the brain at birth, or undiagnosed genitourinary issues. He could ejaculate but struggled to sustain an erection, leading to profound sexual frustration. His first sexual encounter at age 15 was a coercive assault on a 19-year-old family friend of his sister. Overpowering her, he ejaculated prematurely and was ridiculed for his performance. This incident, detailed in later confessions, fused sex with violence in his psyche. Humiliation bred aggression, and aggression became the gateway to fleeting pleasure. Unable to secure a scholarship to Moscow State University, possibly due to his father's tainted war record, Chikatilo worked briefly as a laborer in Kursk before enrolling in a vocational school in 1955 to train as a communications technician. He completed the program in 1957, just as the Soviet Union braced for another wave of purges and paranoia. From 1957 to 1960, Chikatilo served in the Soviet Army, a mandatory rite of passage for young men. Stationed first with border guards in Central Asia, he later transferred to a KGB communications unit in East Berlin. His service record was spotless. He rose to the rank of sergeant and joined the Communist Party in 1959, earning an honorable discharge. Military life provided structure and camaraderie, momentarily shielding him from his insecurities. However, impotence persisted, isolating him from barracks flirtations. Returning to Yablochny in 1960, Chikatilo worked on the collective farm, a humiliating regression to poverty. He attempted a brief romance with a local divorcee, but his sexual dysfunction ended it abruptly. Publicly shamed when she spread word of his failures, he attempted suicide by slashing his wrists but survived. Desperate to escape, he relocated in 1961 to Rodionovo-Nezvetayskaya in the Russian SFSR, taking a job as a communications engineer for a mining company. There he rented a small apartment, briefly shared with his sister Tatiana, who married and moved out after 6 months. In 1963, at age 27, Chikatilo entered an arranged marriage brokered by Tatiana. His bride, Feodosia, or Faina Odnacheva, was a quiet, pious woman 10 years his junior. They wed just 2 weeks after meeting in a pragmatic union suited to Soviet norms. Chikatilo later described their sex life as minimal and mechanical. Intercourse was rare, and conception was achieved through external ejaculation and manual methods. Their daughter Lyudmila arrived in 1965, followed by son Yuri in 1969. Outwardly, the family appeared stable. Chikatilo provided modestly as an engineer, and Feodosia managed the home. Yet beneath the surface, resentment simmered. Chikatilo frequented prostitutes and vagrants for anonymous encounters, but impotence often turned these into violent frustrations. Ambition drove him to self-improvement. In 1964, he enrolled as a correspondence student at Rostov State University, studying Russian literature and philology. He graduated with honors in 1970, leveraging his degree to pivot into education. For a year, he organized regional sports activities. But in 1971, he began teaching Russian language and literature at Vocational School No. 32 in Novoshakhtinsk, a gritty mining town near Rostov-on-Don. Teaching exposed Chikatilo's darker impulses. Shy and authoritarian, he struggled with classroom discipline. Students mocked his stutter and awkwardness, eroding his fragile ego. He began entering girls' dormitories under false pretenses, hoping to glimpse them undressed, a voyeuristic thrill that escalated. In May 1973, he sexually assaulted a 15-year-old female student, forcing her into oral sex. Another incident followed, but complaints forced his resignation in 1974. Undeterred, he secured a similar post at another Novoshakhtinsk school, only to lose it in 1978 due to budget cuts. By the late 1970s, Chikatilo's perversions had deepened. He loitered in public toilets to spy on children, offered gum to young girls to build trust, and assaulted at least 3 minors. Relocating to Shakhty in 1978, he taught at Technical School No. 33, But child molestation allegations ended his career in March 1981. He then became a supply clerk for a Rostov factory, a job requiring constant travel along railway lines, a fateful alignment with his emerging murderous urges. Psychologically, Chikatilo was unraveling. Diagnosed retrospectively as a necrosadist by Dr. Alexander Bukhanovsky, he derived sexual gratification, not from conventional intimacy but from inflicting suffering and death. His impotence rendered normal relations impotent. Violence became the surrogate. Childhood traumas, famine, beatings, cannibalism tales intertwined with adolescent rejections, forging a man who viewed the world as a realm of predators and prey. As Bukhanovsky noted in 1985, Chikatilo was likely a 45-50-year-old recluse, married with children, whose killing substituted for intercourse, his knife a phallic symbol of dominance. Chikatilo's transformation from molester to murderer was gradual, ignited by a confluence of opportunity and rage. On December 22, 1978, his first documented homicide, he lured 9-year-old Yelena Zakotnova from a Shakhty bus stop with promises of sweets and work. Leading her to an abandoned house, he attempted rape, but failing due to impotence. Stabbed her over 30 times in a frenzy. Overcome by panic, he slit her throat and dumped her. Body in the Grushevka River. Semen found at the scene did not match his blood type, a rare, non sequitur anomaly where his blood was type A but semen typed as AB, sparing him early suspicion. This murder, verified later, marked the birth of the Rostov Ripper. A 3-year hiatus followed, during which Chikatilo suppressed his urges through work travel and family life. But on September 3, 1981, the dam broke. In Rostov-on-Don, he met 17-year-old Larisa Tkachenko, a student hitchhiking home. Luring her to a forest near the Don River, he strangled her, stabbed her 20 times, and gagged her with dirt. For the first time, he achieved orgasm amid the violence, stabbing her vagina with a knife, realizing murder's ecstatic release. Her body, found mutilated, bore the Ripper's signature, eyes gouged. Chikatilo irrationally believed victims saw him post-mortem, breasts slashed and genitals ravaged. This epiphany unleashed a torrent. Chikatilo targeted vulnerable youths, runaways, prostitutes, and homeless children frequenting bus depots and train stations along his supply routes. His modus operandi was deceptively simple, posing as a kindly uncle or offering alcohol and money. He isolated victims in woods or sheds, overpowered them, and unleashed sadistic fury. Stabbings numbered in the dozens, often targeting the face, eyes, and genitals. He bit nipples, severed noses and tongues, and in at least 6 cases, consumed flesh, uteruses, nipples, or muscle to possess his victims eternally. The spree escalated through the 1980s, a decade of Soviet decay under Brezhnev and Gorbachev. Economic woes drove thousands of teens to cities, their disappearances dismissed as truancy. Chikatilo killed 10 in 1982 alone, including 13-year-old Lyubov Biryuk on June 12th, stabbed 16 times near Rostov, her eyes wounded and corpse raped. That year also saw the murder of 10-year-old Olga Stelimak on August 19th in Bataysk, her skull fractured and body dumped in a cornfield. 1983 was his most prolific year, 15 victims. Highlights included 10-year-old Diana Tkachenko, no relation to Larisa, on July 24th in Shakhty, stabbed 17 times, and 16-year-old Vera Shevchenko on September 19th near Moscow, strangled and mutilated. Chikatilo traveled widely: Rostov, Shakhty, Novoshakhtinsk, even Ukraine and Uzbekistan, exploiting the vast rail network. In 1984, he killed 15 more, such as 15-year-old Nadezhda Petrik on May 25th in Bataysk, her body eviscerated. A close call came in September 1984, arrested for molesting a girl at a Rostov station. Chikatilo was found with a knife, rope, and Vaseline. But the blood mismatch freed him after 40 days. Emboldened, he resumed, killing 14 in 1985, including 11-year-old Katya Rudenko on August 9th in Donetsk. By 1986-1987, patterns emerged: 11 murders in 86, e.g. 10-year-old Alexei Anasenko on July 15 in Rostov, and 5 in 87, fatigue and family. Pressures slowed him. But 1988 saw 7, like 10-year-old Dmitry Patashnikov on August 17th in Novoshakhtinsk. In 1989, 8 victims fell, including 10-year-old Alexei Moiseyev on July 28 near Rostov. His final verified murder was 22-year-old Svetlana Korostik on November 6 in the Donleskos forest, stabbed 19 times. Chikatilo confessed to 56 total, including unverified early killings like a 1980 Armenian girl near Kirpichnaya station. Victims spanned ages 8-36, mostly female, 42 girls, women, 11 boys, united by vulnerability. He claimed the acts quelled inner demons, but autopsy reports revealed a man aroused only by terror. Erections formed mid-stabbing, and ejaculation occurred during mutilation. The Soviet response was agonizingly slow. In 1981, after Tkachenko's body surfaced, local police in Rostov formed a task force under Viktor Burakov, a dedicated detective. But ideology hampered progress. Officials rejected serial killer as a Western bourgeois concept, attributing deaths to hooliganism or accidents. Bodies piled up, over 20 by 1984, yet coordination was abysmal. An index of 25,000 suspects grew, but leads fizzled. Breakthroughs were incremental. In 1984, a witness sketched a suspect matching Chikatilo, but the blood error dismissed him. Bukhanovsky's 1985 profile, impotent sadist, teacher, or clerk, killing near transport on weekdays, was prescient but ignored. By 1988, under Gorbachev's glasnost, pressure mounted. Media hinted at a mad beast. Surveillance blanketed stations. Decoys patrolled woods. Chikatilo slipped through again in 1989, but post-Korostik, a bus stop witness reported his suspicious behavior on November 13, 1990. Arrested November 20th. In Novochakhtinsk, he was unkempt, with blood on his clothes matching Korostik. Interrogation yielded denials, but Bukhanovsky's intervention proved pivotal. Reading the profile aloud, the psychiatrist struck a nerve. Chikatilo wept, confessing to 36 murders on November 20th, expanding to 56 by December. He led police to undiscovered sites, demonstrating techniques, chilling reenactments that horrified investigators. His wife, Feodosia, visited once, providing an alibi that crumbled. Children Lyudmila and Yuri, now adults, were shielded from details but bore the stigma. Chikatilo expressed regret. "I am a mistake of nature," he told Bukhanovsky, lamenting untreated illness. Chikatilo's trial commenced on April 14, 1992, in Rostov-on-Don's regional court, a spectacle under post-Soviet scrutiny. Charged with 53 murders, 3 dismissed for lack of evidence, he was confined in an iron cage to prevent attacks. Victims. Relatives hurled insults, one throwing a knife. Over 6 months, until October 15, 1992, prosecutors presented confessions, forensics and witness testimonies. Chikatilo retracted 6 admissions mid-trial, ranting incoherently or exposing himself. But the evidence was overwhelming. Psych evaluations confirmed necrosadism. He was deemed sane and fit for execution. On October 15th, guilty on 52 counts, he received death for each firing squad. Appeals failed. Pleas of biased psychiatry rang hollow. Feodosia divorced him quietly, the family retreating into obscurity. On February 14, 1994, Valentine's Day, ironically, Chikatilo was executed by a bullet to the nape in Novocherkassk prison, age 57. His last words were pleas for mercy, unheeded. No grave marks him. Ashes were scattered anonymously. Chikatilo's legacy is multifaceted. He exposed Soviet forensic flaws, the blood error alone, delayed justice, and spurred criminal psychology reforms. Bukhanovsky became a renowned expert, consulting on cases like the chessboard killer. Culturally, HBO's 1995 film Citizen X has dramatized Burakov's hunt, earning praise for authenticity. Yet his story warns of unchecked trauma. Childhood famine bred a monster who devoured innocence. His 53 victims a testament to systemic blindness. Today, in Russia's Rostov region, memorials honor the lost, while criminologists debate nature versus nurture. Was Chikatilo born evil or forged by Stalin's horrors? The answer eludes, but his shadow endures, a grim chapter in human depravity.